In the last session, we have covered our work up to the step 10, and the subsection of the in the subsection of the 10th step we have completed the assigning of the dead load. We have also completed the assigning of superimposed dead load. We also have assigned the live load, and we also have defined and assigned the earthquake load by the equivalent static method. As I earlier told you that the defining of earthquake load in the load pattern is itself a equivalent static method. Hello, you all are with me? Yeah. So the load that you are defining here for the earthquake purpose is actually the equivalent static method. Okay. So there is not any other method, another way, another procedure, additional procedure to define the equivalent static method. The load that you are defining here is itself a equivalent static method. Is that okay? So here we have defined the earthquake load. So it's done. Now see here in our earlier steps, see we have defined the dead load, live load, superimposed load, dead load, earthquake load. These all things done. But see, as per the architectural plan, there is a staircase, and till now we have not considered the staircase load on our structure. Am I right? Yeah. So if you see the architectural plan, see this is the first flight, the first half flight of the staircase and the second flight, and this is the upside. This is the start point. If you see, this is actually the start point. The start point at the and at the mid landing level, you need to provide the mid landing beam here. Got it? We need to provide the mid landing beam here. Now then the second half flight is on the right side, in the upper side, and that move up, and there you need to provide the beam here at the floor level. But as you can see, there is a shear wall. So is there need to provide the beam? Because see, shear wall will runs from bottom to top of the floor, the top height of the structure, and it will start from the foundation level and goes to the top of the building. So is it necessary to provide the beam at the floor level? Yeah. So it is not needed to provide the beam here. If it is not, if there is no existence of the shear wall, at that time it is must to provide the beam here. But see, there is a shear wall, that's why you don't need to provide the beam here. This is the first thing. Okay. Now second thing is what? At the mid landing level, there is need to provide the beam here at the mid landing of the story. So actually we have to modify our structure, our model. As you can see here, see the staircase is here like this. If you look at the geometry, so staircase will start from this point. This is the up point, and this beam should be at mid landing level, at the mid of the story. Am I right? Hello. This beam, it should be mid of the floor. This is the mid landing beam actually. Okay. So it is not recommended to provide this beam at the floor level. Got it? See, this is the start point. So this is the first floor, suppose. So your flight and this is the end point. This is the end point. This is the start point. Okay, just see here. Try to understand for those who is actually not getting what I am trying to explain. Okay, so suppose this is the start point, and this floor to floor level, this is the first, let it be second, let it be first. Okay, this first and this second. So what will happen? As you can see, this first, this is second, this is first, and this is your start point. So at the mid of the level of first and second floor, you need to provide the beam here. You need to provide the beam here at the mid landing level, and when you go back to the floor side, then at that time you need to provide the beam here. Suppose this is the support in the column. This is not the this is not actually the support. Okay, so this will sorry. Like this. So you need to provide the beam here. So this is the floor beam, this is the mid landing beam. So here it is actually mid landing beam. You don't need to provide this beam at the floor level. See here at the floor level there is no need to provide the beam, any beam here. Got it? Hello? Yeah, so see, we need to lower this beam at the mid of the story. So see, we need to see the grids. So to keep in view the grids of the structure, just right click on the window and just click on set grid visibility. So as you can see, I just want to see the elevation along the grid B, because I just want to lower this beam. So just go to elevation, and as you can see there are options for the elevation as per the number of grids. Okay, so here I just want to see the elevation along B. Just say apply. Here you can see it may be confusion that which side of beam you have to lower, either these or either these. Hello, you all are with me? Hello. So it may be confusing that which beam we have to lower, either this beam or this beam. So to avoid this confusion, just come back to plan again and then select this beam first. Okay, one beam is in selection, then just go to elevation and then go to elevation along grid B. Just say apply. See, so here it is actually selection. See, here it is this beam is actually selected. Is it visible to all of you? Yeah, so this beam is selected. So we have to lower all these beams except the top floor. Okay, so just go with the all story option and again just click here, so that all beams will be selected. Is it visible that that the all beam has been selected? Hello. Yeah, so this beam we have to lower. So the floor to floor height is actually how much? 3.6 meter. Typical floor height is actually 3.6 meter. So just the half of 3.6 meter, what it will be? 1.8 exactly. So just go to move option. When you go to edit, there you can find an option as move option. Where it is? Yeah, move joint, frames, shells, like that. A option you will find in a edit section. When you click here, there will be an option move. Just click on it. So this will ask you a distance for which you can move your joint, beam, shell, whatever. So here I just want to lower the beam by 1.8 meter in vertical direction. So the vertical direction is actually Z direction. So just put it here. See, this is asking in meter. So just put minus 1.8 because we have to move downward side. So okay, just say apply. When you click on apply, you can see all the beams get lowered by 1.8 meter. Just say apply. Is it done? Hello. Yeah, but see, just go to one story option. See, this beam we have to keep at the floor level. Okay, so just move to, just click on pick 2 points. Okay, from where you have to pick your frame and where you want to land that frame. Just click on that point. This is done. Say apply. So your beam get moved on the required point. So this done. Now see, the height is actually different from 20 to 21st floor, and that height is actually how much? 3 meter. Am I right? Hello. Yeah, but we see it is not at the center. It is not at the center. So what we have to do first, we need to keep it at the normal level. So just click here and pick 2 points option, click on this beam and move to the floor level first, say apply. Okay, now then select this beam and put minus 1.5, because the 3 meter floor to floor height is there, and half of that floor to floor height will be 1.5. Then select this beam, say apply. So this beam, select this beam and put minus 1.5, then say apply. So as you can see, this comes at the mid of this 20 and 21st floor. Is that okay? And the same thing you have to do for C, 5th and 6th floor. As you can see here, this is not at the mid of span, mid of vertical span. Then select this, then put 0 here and pick 2 points from this point to this point, say apply. Excuse me. So see, now we have to keep it at the mid of the span. So here it is. Yeah, so just put the value as minus 1.5. okay, and first select the beam, then say apply. So that beam will come at the mid of height of 5th to 6th story. So this is all done for placing of your mid landing beam at the mid of each story. So this is done. Now just come back to the plan. Okay, so this is the thing we actually have to do before assigning the staircase loading. Okay, so actually the thing is that what we are going to calculate first. See, just try to come at right time. Our time is 7:30. So if you are coming late, that's why you are getting the trouble in joining the meeting. Is that okay? So don't be late. So what actually we are doing? So here we have to assign the staircase load on column as a point load. So what actually the thing is there? See, we have an Excel sheet. Okay, so we have to put all the dimensions of the staircase, and we have to put all the loadings over the staircase, and after that we have to calculate the loading that coming on the structure on the staircase, and that load transfer to the supporting element. You all got it? Hello? So what will happen there? See, this is the staircase like this. If I am talking about the first flight, okay, so what will happen? All kind of load that you are assigning to this slab or flight, or we can say staircase slab, that load will be transferred to the supporting beam first. This load will be transferred to the supporting beam. Half part will be transferred to the upper supporting beam, and half part will be transferred to the lower supporting beam. Okay, so this is actually the way of transferring the load as a one-way slab. One-way load distribution will be there, and the load will be transferred to the upside beam and lower side beam. This is the first thing. So what you can do, you can calculate the UDL that coming on this beam, landing beam. First thing, you can calculate this loading and you can apply to the supporting beam. This is the first way. And the next step of this is what? You can directly assign the point load to the supporting column. See, this will comes like this, will look like this. This is a supporting column and this is a landing beam. So you will calculate the landing beam loading in kilonewton per meter. Whatever the load that will come on this on the landing beam will be in running meter. So that load you can calculate here, and the half of that load will be transferred to this column, and half of that load will be transferred to this column as a point load. You all got it? What actually we are going to do? Yeah, so the first way is actually what we can apply the load to the beams, and the next step, one more step beyond that, is what you can directly calculate the point load. How you can do that we will see. Okay, so there are two lengths, as you can see here. This is the length along the longitudinal direction and is along the width of the staircase. So that all calculation and all consideration we will see here. Just concentrate. So we need to look at the architectural geometry of given staircase. So as you can see here, the total length of the staircase is how much? Can you tell me? From this point to this point, and also you can see this point to at the end of the wall, whatever you like, you can do that. So I would like to take it at the inner face. So how much length is there? Hello? 7.41. So let it be 7 meter. You all are agree? Yeah, so let it be 7 meter. Okay, so length of the staircase, that also given here, which length you have to put here. So this is actually the length of the staircase along the longitudinal direction. Okay, so let it be 7 meter. Now you have to put the overall width of the staircase. So for that you need to see here the width of the staircase. How much from this face to, I would like to take it up to this face of the column. So it will become how much? 4.96. Got it? How much it is? 4.96. Yeah. So that width of the staircase you have to put here. 4.96 you can put. 4.96. Now floor to floor height. So there are different floor to floor height. Okay. So we have to take the, see, 4 meter floor to floor height is there from first to second story. Am I right? There is a 4 meter height, and the typical height is 3.6 meter, and one height is there as 3 meter. So can you tell me which is the worst height for the load calculation? Can you tell me which is the worst height? Which height will impose maximum load? Exactly 4 meter. So you need to consider the worst height, that will be the 4 meter. So just take it as 4 meter. Okay. Now for the staircase, I would like to take the grade of concrete as M30, and if you would like to take it as M50, you can do that also. So suppose I am taking M50, let it be M50. Now grade of steel will be 500, riser is 150, tread is 300 mm, and landing width. See, this is the landing width. See, this is actually the landing width. To save the time, I have taken all the dimension in advance. So from this face, end of the flight, to the face of the landing beam. So how much it is? 2.3 meter. So that landing width you have to put here. So just put the landing width as 2.3 meter. Width of the support on up and down side will be 230. Height of each flight will by default calculated by the sheet. You don't need to do anything in the white cells. You only have to put the values in the yellow cells. So floor to floor height will be half of the floor to floor height. So height of each flight will be half of floor to floor height, that will become 2. As you can see here, this total actually floor to floor height. Okay, and the half of this floor to floor height you will get the height of the one flight. So this is actually given here. Now number of risers will be 13 and number of tread will be less. uh, you have to minus one value from the number of risers so that you get the number of treads. So number of treads will be 12 and inclined flight height will be 3.7, inclined flight length will be 4.2 and effective span length will become 5.19. So this is done. Now assume clear cover as 20 and assume dia of bar as 10 and modification factor I would like to take it here as 1.5. So these all things in respect of design of the staircase. But here we actually interested to calculate the load only. Okay, we are not interested for the design of the staircase. So as per the calculation, as we already discussed that the staircase slab designed as a one-way slab. So the formula for the simply supported one-way slab is effective span divided by 20. As per the IS 456, it says that for the simply supported slab, span to effective depth ratio should be 20. Okay, so that formula, that concept here it is used for the calculation of the effective depth. So the requirement of the effective depth is actually 173 and overall depth is actually 188. And based on that, I would like to take the overall depth of the slab for the staircase as 200. You all are agree? Yeah. So it's done. Now just move down. See, sheet will by default calculate the dead load of the waste slab as 5.59, dead load of the steps 1.85, and the floor finish, it is in your hand how much floor finish you would like to take. So here I would like to take the floor finish as only 1 kilonewton per meter square. Okay, so can you tell me how much total dead load is there? See, 5.59. Okay, then 1.875 and third one is 1 kilonewton per meter square. So this combined will give you total superimposed dead load. Am I right? Hello? Hello? How much it will become? How much it will become? 5.59, 1.875 and 1. How much it will become? Fast answer. 8.465. See, this is the load that coming on your slab whose width is 4.9 meter, 4.96 actually, and the length is actually 7 meter. Is that clear? This is actually slab whose width is 4.96 and whose length is actually 7 meter. And see what is the load is coming on this slab as a superimposed dead load. Can you tell me? Again 8.46 I think. Is it correct? This kilonewton per meter square. So what I actually want, I just want to distribute this load over this beam. Over this beam. I just want to distribute this area load to this beam, supporting beam, and this supporting beam. See, there is a supporting beams as a UDL. So this load is in kilonewton per meter square. See, I am just trying to explain in a very basic way. Okay, just try to understand. So we have to multiply this value 8.46 multiplied by 7 so that you will get the distribution of load over this length. Hello? So that you will get you will get the distribution of the load over this length. Okay, so how much it will become, can you tell me? 59.225. Okay, let it be. Okay, let it be 59 point whatever. So 59.25. So this is the load, is the total load, but we have to divide this value by 2, so that half load will be transferred to this beam, half load will be transferred to this beam. Am I right? Yeah. So can you give me answer? What will be the answer? 29.63. So this is actually load coming on this beam. But so if I am taking this here as, so this coming as 29.63 kilonewton per running meter, and I would like to convert this UDL load in point load. Can anyone guide me how I can calculate the point load? See, this length is actually 4.96. Can you guide me how I can calculate the point load? See, very basic thing is there. We have learned all these things in the first year of our graduation. Hello. 4.96, then exactly this will multiplied by 4.96, and that entire value will be divided by 2. So can you tell me what is the point load? Good. 73.48. So this is actually the answer, or actually the point load that you have to assign over the supporting column. You all understood? Okay, so this is actually the thing we have to do, but see, this much calculation you don't need to do. I have already taken. See, UDL, how much the load is there? 29 point something you are getting, so you can take it as 30. Hello, data to be put in it. Okay, so 30 kilonewton per meter running length you have to assign on the supporting landing beam or floor beam. Okay, so if you like to assign the load over the beam, at that time you have to go with this option. And live load in the form of UDL, a live load in the form of UDL will become 14. How you can calculate? See, total live load is actually 4 kilonewton per meter square, and if you multiply this with 7, that will become 7 4 as a how much? 28, and that 28 will be divided by 2. How much it will become? 14. So 14 kilonewton will coming to this beam, 14 kilonewton will coming to this beam as a UDL, and if you divide that 14 by 4.96, you will get what? Sorry, if you multiply this 14 with 4.96 and divided by 2, you will get the point load. How much it will become? $34.72. So the round up value is actually given here. How much it is? 35. So you understood? Got it? What would you like to assign, either UDL or point load? This is in your hand. Hello. See, just come back to the, just remember we have to assign superimposed dead load as a point load. In point load, how much? 75. Okay, so we will assign the point load. So just come back here. See, either you can assign to the beams. Remember that, just go to elevation and go to along the grid B, see select all beams, all story. So once you click all story, so all the beams will get selected. Okay. Now if you would like to assign the loading to beam, then just go to assign, then go to frame, then go to frame loads, then go to distributed, and in that way under the SIDL load pattern you can put the value here as how much hello how much load in the UDL format you have to assign over the landing beam. 30 kilonewton per meter. Is that okay? But here I suggest you that directly assign the point load over the column. Okay, that will be more easy and more better to assign the loading over the columns. Okay, so just go to plan, just clear all this selection, just go to plan at any story and then select the joint midpoint. Okay, so 23 joints is in selection as you can see here. Now select this joint. Okay, and on this side there is no option because there is no beam, so only one option is there. You have to assign the load on the joint. So click here and then click here. So all 4 joints has been we have selected. Then go to assign, then go to joint loads, then go to force, then the pattern will be SIDL, and in global Y direction just put minus value, and how much point load we have to put? 75. Okay, so just put it here as minus 75. Say apply. Just see in 3D view. Just say apply. So is it visible? 75 kilonewton has been assigned to all joints. Hello, is it visible? Yeah, 75 kilonewton has been assigned to all joints. Now see, next thing is what? We have to assign the live load as 35 kilonewton. Okay, so just go with the previous selection. So this is done. 1010 joint is in selection, and this should be 35 minus 35, but remember that it should be in live load pattern. Say apply. So that's also assigned to the joint. It changed to 75 to 35, but it is in live load. 75 kilonewton is also there, but that load is in superimposed dead load pattern. So this is all done for this side of the staircase. See, there are 2 staircase. Now we have to see this staircase. So what is the length of this staircase? Can you tell me? 7.01. So we can take it as again 7 meter. Am I right? And see, width of the staircase is how much? This is 3.8 meter. So just come back to the sheet again, and minor changes we have to do there. See, 7 will be there, this will be 3.8. okay, and 4 will be there, 50 will be there, 500 will be there, 150, 300 will be there, 2.3. see, landing width you have to see here. So landing width is how much? One point. How much it is? 1.63. So to be on safer side, we can take it as 1.65. So just put it as 1 point. Where it is landing width. So let it be 1.65. Okay. So just move down, and effective depth is actually required 148. So let it be 200 again. Hello, can I take 200 again? See, for the both the slab, for the both the staircase slab, we are trying to keep the same depth. However, it is required 148, but to be on more safer side, we are going to take it as 200. But here we are not interested to design the staircase. We only have to consider the load of the slab. That's so it is better to take a heavier, higher thickness, so that will give you some more loading. Okay, so this is all done. So thus you can see the result from this box. So how much point load you have to assign in SIDL load pattern? Fast. 57. And lie load how much? Okay, good. So just go to plan again. Okay. Select all the joints first. Make sure that all story options should be there. So select this joint, select this joint, select this joint, select this joint. Okay, so 116 joint is in selection. Again I am selecting this joint 29, this joint 58, this will be the 87, and this will be what, 116. Then go to assign, then go to joint load, then go to force, and there you have to put the live first superimposed dead load as 57. Got it? It should be what, 57. Say apply. In 3D view you can see this 57. So this is done. Here 57 kilonewton is assigned, here 75 kilonewton is actually assigned to all the joints. So this is done. Now again go to previous selection so that all the joints will be selected again. Now it should be how much? 27. Good. It should be 27 this time, but it should be in a lie load pattern. Say apply. So that load is actually assigned to all the joints. So these actually all the loads we have considered for the staircase portion. You all understood? Just go to plan. So this is actually the second way of considering the staircase loading over the supporting columns and beams. You all understood? Is there any question? Hello, Pranali, you all understood? Okay, good. Now see, so okay, Pranali. So this is done. Till now we have completed assigning of dead load, superimposed dead load. Okay, so all kinds of dead load, superimposed dead load, lie load we have assigned to the structure. Now see, the next most important thing is we have to assign the wind load to the structure. Got it? So just try to understand. There are different methods. Hello, you all are with me? Yeah. So there are different methods of calculation of the wind load, and out of them, like the seismic methods of analysis, here it is a static method, and second one is the dynamic method. Dynamic method of analysis. In a static analysis method of calculating the wind load, you will get the method of analysis as force coefficient method. Force coefficient method, and in dynamic you will get the gust factor method. Gust factor method. These are the two methods for the calculation of the wind load over the structure especially for the high-rise structure. And in dynamic you also get the wind tunnel analysis. You you heard about this? What does mean by the wind tunnel analysis? See, if your structure is very important and it is very high rise structure, in that case you need to go for the wind dynamic method of analysis for the calculation of the wind load. So these two are actually the advanced method of analysis for the calculation of the wind load over the structure. And these normal the case, in normal case it is better to go with the static method of analysis for the calculation of the wind load over the structure. So if you go to ETAP software, and when you go to define load pattern, see, when you go to load pattern and see, we have defined the load pattern as wind load in positive x direction, wind load in negative x direction, wind load in positive y direction, and likewise in negative y direction. Okay, so here we actually have want to calculate the wind load over the structure as per the IS 875 with the help of by default calculation of the ETAP software. What I am telling you, just I am repeating again, we are going to calculate the wind load over the structure as per the IS 875 part as per the IS 875 part 3 with the help of ETAP's by default calculation. Why I am explaining this? Because see, when you go to modify lateral load, see, so this kind of new dialog box will open up, and this here this is actually the force coefficient, nothing but the force coefficient method. What it is? This is the force coefficient method is this. So basic information we have to put here only, so that ETAPS will by default calculate the lateral force over the structure. Hello, you all are with me? Hello. So what ETAPS will do? ETAPS will calculate the lateral loads over each floor at each floor by default. So here actually what the experts recommend, that don't rely on the ETAPS calculation for very high structure, very high rise structure. Okay, so it is recommended that you should calculate on your own the lateral force coming on the structure, and that lateral force you have to assign to each individual floor. No doubt method of calculation will be same. We will calculate manually by same method of analysis, that force coefficient method. So that will be the manual calculation, and the another way is to put basic information here, so that ETAPS will calculate the lateral force and wind load to the structure. So which is better? Either you would like to rely on the ETAP result, or you would like to calculate on your own. Which thing is better? Hello. See, if you are dealing with the low rise structure, so it is good to go with this option. But if you are dealing with the high rise structure, so it is recommended by the expert that the lateral load should be calculated first and then assigned to the structure. Got it? Hello. Am I audible? So yeah, good. So which thing is better? Either you would like to go with the ETAPS calculation, or you would like to calculate on your own. Yeah, so it is, so here there is no option to calculate the load manually, and then we will go to assign that load to the structure. So it is the best way, best practice. Okay, so how you can calculate the lateral force at on each story by that coming due to wind loading. Okay, so we have an Excel sheet. Using that Excel sheet, we try to calculate the load over the each floor. So just go to is it visible to all of you? Hello. So this is actually sheet I have prepared for the calculation of the wind load over the height of the structure by the force coefficient method. So we have to go with this option. So can you tell me where our structure is actually located? Mumbai. So we have considered that our structure is actually located in Mumbai region. So uh, the region is actually Mumbai region. Okay. Now, what is the basic wind speed of that area? Mumbai region. How much it is? So that thing you can see from the IS code IS 875 part 3 2015 revision IS 875 2015 part 3. Just move down. See, basic wind speed at 10-meter height for some important cities and town. Here you can find your area, your location, your city. So this is for Mumbai. How much it is? For Mumbai, here it is given that this is 44 meter per 44 meter per second is the basic wind speed. So just come back to the sheet. So the basic wind speed is actually 44 meter per second. So actually concept is what we have to calculate the lateral force over the story. See, so what is the formula? So to calculate the lateral force, F is equal to, the formula is force coefficient multiplied by effective area multiplied by design wind pressure, PD. What is the formula to calculate the lateral force? The formula is what? Force coefficient factor multiplied by effective area multiplied by design wind pressure. Now there is no problem. There is not much effort you have to put to calculate the force coefficient. Okay, you don't need to take much effort to calculate the force coefficient. So this is okay. You don't need to put don't need to put much effort to calculate the effective area. That's also okay. But say to calculate the design wind pressure is actually little bit tedious job to calculate the design wind pressure over the height of the structure. Hello, you all are with me? Yeah. So how you can calculate the design wind pressure? So see, first you will get the basic wind speed. Okay. Now what is the formula to calculate the design wind speed? The formula Vz will be there is equal to, see, Vb, as you can see here, Vb over the design over the basic wind speed, you have to apply some factors. What are those factors? That factors are K1, K2, K3 and K4. So these all are the different factors. So first is probability factor, then second is the terrain roughness and height factor, third one is the topography factor, and fourth one is the importance factor. So these all factors we have to apply on the basic wind speed, so that you will get the design wind speed. Okay, once you get the design wind speed, you have to calculate the wind pressure, and that wind pressure you can calculate by this formula Pz equal to 0.6 times design basic wind speed. design basic wind speed. Okay, design wind speed. When you use this formula, you can get the design wind pressure. Wind pressure, normal wind pressure is this. Okay, and this wind pressure, and finally by applying some engineering factor to this wind pressure, you will get the design wind pressure. See, no doubt this is also wind pressure, and this is also correct, design wind pressure, but we are going to apply some engineering factors to this design pressure. And once you apply some engineering factor, and what are those factors? The first is directionality factor, second one is the area averaging factor, and third one is the combination factor. All these factors when you apply to PZ, at that time you will get the design wind pressure. And finally, as I told you, that the formula is what? Force coefficient multiplied by effective area multiplied by design wind pressure, PD. Okay, so see, by this formula you can calculate the lateral force due to wind action at a particular floor over the building. Is that clear? Hello? Hello? You have understood? Okay, now next thing is what? See, actually there is a one very important point I am going to discuss. See, there is a one value for KD, there is one value for KA, there is a one value for KC. Okay, and okay, coming from top side. Okay, see, VB is one value for complete Mumbai region. The basic wind speed is how much? What is the basic wind speed? 44. So there is a one value for that. Then K1 is a one value. We will see in the code. So K1 is the one value, K3 is one value, K4 is one value. Okay, so only the factor K2 will vary with your height of the structure. There is no problem with the K1 factor, there is no problem with the K3 factor, there is no problem with the K4 factor, but only the problem with K2, because your K2 factor, if you see, terrain roughness and height factor, so this factor will vary with the height of your structure where you want to calculate your lateral load. Suppose this is our base of the structure and there is a different level. So what will be there? See, if I'm interested to calculate the wind load at this level. Suppose this is at a height of x meter and this is a height of say x plus x1. This is actually the x1. Okay, so height will be changed so that this Vz value will get changed. So at every level you will get a different value of Vz. This is because of why? Hello? Can you tell me why? Change in height, and change in height which factor influenced by the height of the structure? Exactly. So if K2 is not there, so we will get a single value for the complete structure, but only the problematic factor is what? Your K2. K2 is actually varying with your height of the structure where you want to calculate the loading. Is that clear? Yeah. So due to K2 factor you will get different value of Vz. Then finally your Pz is depends on what? Vz. So you will get number of values per Pz. Then finally your design pressure depends on what? Hello? Pz. And Pz, so you will get number of values at different floor, different values Pd. Is that okay? Hello? And finally you can see your force is depends on what? Cf there is a single value of CF, there may be single value of AE, then what will be there? Hello, PZ will be single or different? PD. Hello. Yeah, so we will get the different value of the lateral force over the height of the structure. Is that okay? Hello, is that okay? Okay, yeah, good. Now just come back to find the different factors. So we have seen what is the basic wind speed of Mumbai is actually 44. Okay, let it be. Now risk coefficient. Just come back to the code and we have to see the risk coefficient that you can find from the table that is given in IS 875 part 3 2015 revision. See, the same formula you can find here to calculate the modified wind speed. VB multiplied by basic wind speed multiplied by K1, K2, K3, K4. K1 probability factor, risk coefficient, K2 train reference, height factor, topography factor, importance factor. Okay, so we have to find first K1. So as you can see here in this table, for all general buildings and structure, so we are considering that our structure falls under the first type, all general buildings and structure, whose probable design life of structure is actually 50 years. Okay, so 50 years, and for the 44 basic wind speed, how much factor is there for K1? 1. So that's value actually we have taken here as K1. There it is. Okay, so this K1. Now upwind slope, the topography factor. Okay, if your upwind slope is less than 3 degree, at that time you have to choose the value as 1, and if it is greater than 3, that you can find from here in the code. See, the effect of topography means undulation of your ground condition here counted in the topography factor. So the effect of topography shall be significant at a site when upwind slope angle is more than about 3 degree. So if your upwind slope is more than 3 degree, at that time you have to find the value in between 1 to 1.36. Okay, but if your upwind slope is less than 3 degree, at that time you have to choose the value as 1. Is that clear? So here for the normal structure, we are considering that our side is plain side, there is not much undulation is there, up and down is not there, so that the normal side condition is there. That's why the slope will be how much? Will be less than 3 or greater than 3? Hello, less than 3. That's why we are going to take the value as 1, that is given here at the page number 8. Okay, so just take it as K3 1. Now type of the structure for deciding the K4 factor. See, K1 we have calculated, K3 we have seen. Now instead of K2 we will discuss on K2 later, but before that we are going to find the K4 factor. Okay, so the K4 factor is actually depends on the type of and geometry of your structure. Okay, sorry, your type of structure. So we have to see the K4 factor. So see, this is the K4 factor, importance factor for the cyclonic region. Okay, so here it is given that structure of post cyclonic importance for the emergency such as cyclone shelters, hospitals, schools, communication towers, industrial structure. See, the first value is for all types of important structures and public structure. For that case you have to take 1.3. okay, and for the industrial structure you have to take 1.15, and for all other structure means residential building, commercial building, for all such kind of the structure you have to take what? 1. So that's why we are going to take the value as 1. Okay, so let it be 1. Now geometry of the building for deciding the KD factor. Now directionality factor, area averaging factor and combination factor. So directionality factor is actually depends on your geometry of in plan geometry of your structure. So if you go to code again, see directionality factor, area averaging factor, combination factor. Okay, so wind directionality factor. So as you can see here, for triangular, square and rectangular shape of the building in plan geometry, if it is triangular, if it is square, if it is rectangular, for that case you have to take the value as 0.9. Hello. And for the circular or nearly circular, you have to take the value as 1. Got it? So in which case our building will fall, whether it is triangular, square or rectangular. Hello. Sorry. First one, rectangular. Okay, because in plan dimension, if you see, it is what? It is 20 and is 32. Okay, so this is a rectangular. So factor will be 0.9. Directionality factor will be 0.9. This is the first thing. Now second, we have to see area averaging factor. So if you are facing area to the wind, sorry. So let's try to understand that. If you are facing, suppose this is your building, like this, and wind is coming from this side, okay, and your facing area is, suppose there are 3 criteria actually given. If you see the code, so if it is less than 10 square meter, 10 meter square, if it is 20 meter square, if it is greater than 100 meter square, at that time you have to take the area averaging factor as 0.8, 0.9 and 1. So what is the case for our building? So if you see, suppose we are going to take this direction. So suppose this dimension is actually 32 meter and this is what, 20, and total height is actually 93.85. so can you tell me how much total area is there? So this height 93.85 multiplied by this length, how much it is? 32. What will be the answer? That will be much higher than 100 meter square. Am I right? This will be much higher than your 100 meter square. That's why, see, we our case will comes under the third category. In facing area is more than 100 meter square. That's why we will take as 0.8. Got it? Area averaging factor 0.8. Hello. Hello. Yeah. Now the combination factor. The third factor we have to see, the combination factor. There is a single value is actually 0.9, I think there. Combination factor. Okay, see, when taking wind loads on frame of clad building, it is reasonable to assume that the pressure or suction inside and outside of the structure shall not be fully correlated. Therefore, when taking a combined effect of wind load on the frame, a reduction factor of 0.9 should be taken. See, when the load blow from a particular side, that side we are considering as windward side, and the other side we are considering as leeward side. Got it? This is the windward side, this is the leeward side. Okay, if opening is there, okay, there will be the suction. This load will push the structure, and if there is an opening, that will create the suction inside of your structure, and that suction will try to lift your structure. Got it? Hello? That combination we have to take here, and for that combination the value is given here as 0.9. Okay, so that all factor we have to take. So just come back to the sheet. Okay, so area averaging factor will be 0.8, directionality factor as per the geometry will be 0.9, and combination factor will be the 0.9. Okay, now third we have to decide the train category, in which train category your building is actually located. So there are 4 categories actually defined by the code, as you can see here in the code. See the train categories. So first category, exposed open train. Exposed train means what? Is actually the land. Okay, where is actually your building is located. So exposed open train with few or no obstruction, and in which the average height of any object surrounding this structure is less than 1.5 meter. So can you tell me our Mumbai will fall in this category? Okay, this is open discussion. What the statement says that the first train category is what? The first train category is what? Exposed open train. This is the open train, open land with few or no obstruction. There are few, very little number of buildings are there, or sometimes no obstruction is there, and in which the average height of the structure, where all the structure which is surrounding your building is in the range up to 1.5 meter height. So your building will fall in this category. Exactly, no. Okay, just come down for the to see the second category. What the second category says that see, try to understand. Open train with well scattered obstruction means the structure is at a certain certain spacing. Okay, open train with well scattered obstruction having heights generally between 1.5 to 10 meter. So can you tell me your building will fall in this category? Fast. Exactly, no. Okay, see 1.5 to 10 meter. Can you imagine how many number of floors will be there within 10 meter height? Yeah, it will be 3 meter if you count it from above the ground. So 3 floors. So in Mumbai, there are the buildings with the 3 floor. Is it the building is with the 3 floor in Mumbai region? No, all the buildings are minimum 6 to 7 floor. Am I right? Or almost that will be 11 floor, 12 floor, 22 floor. Okay, so that is not the case for our structure and for our proposed region, that actually the Mumbai. So now we need to look at the third category. So what is given actually in third category? Train with numerously closed spaced obstruction means all the buildings are very close to each other, having the size of buildings or structures up to 10 meter in height with or without a few isolated tall structure. So this is the case. Hello. Yeah, we can consider this is our case. See what it says that the structures are very close. So in Mumbai, all these structures are very close. Hello, hello. Yeah, and the height of this structure are more than 10 meter or up to 10 meter, and there are some structure which are tall structure. Got it? So these actually our category. Okay, your Mumbai will fall under the third category. So the category is very important to decide before calculation of the K2 factor. See, your K2 factor is actually depends on the train category. If you see here, a table is given. See, sorry, the factor K2 factor, train and height multiplier K2 factor is depends on what? Your train category. For the train category first, the factor is different. For the train category 2, the factor is different. For the train category 3, the factor is different, and likewise for the train category 4, factor is different. This is the first thing. And say, okay, this is done. We will see later. Just come back to the sheet here. So this is done. So train category will be 3. Now building dimension along the wind direction. See, this is our dimension. This is 32 meter and this is 20 meter. Am I right? Hello. This is 32 meter and this is what? This is 20 meter. Okay. Now what this code says that these images actually taken from the code. Okay, so you can find these images from the code itself. Okay, so what the code says that if you are considering your wind loading in this direction, so your dimension along this direction is considered as A. Hello, is considered as A, and the dimension along which is perpendicular to the applied load will be considered as what? B. So here in the first case, what I want to consider, I just want to consider the wind loading along the x direction. The wind loading along the x direction. So can you tell me that 32 meter will become what? Either A or B? A, and 20 will become what? Exactly. So that same thing you have to put here. Okay, so A will be, let it be 32 and B will be 20, and height of the building above the ground is how much? Above the ground, height of building, that we have to, sorry, see, okay, let me see, above the ground. So see, this is actually the ground. If you measure the distance from this point, this is how much? 93.85. Yeah, so just put it as 93.85. So this is that 93.85. Okay, now A by B ratio will become 1.6 and H by B ratio will become 4.6925. Hello, these two ratios are very important to calculate your force coefficient. Okay, your force coefficient is depends on your these two values. So based on H by B ratio, you have to decide the graph, which graph you actually have to use to calculate the CF factor. So two graphs actually given in IS 875. Okay, that actually I have taken here. Okay, so if your H by B ratio is greater than 1, at that time you have to go with this chart. If your H by B ratio is less than 1, at that time you have to go with this chart. So can you tell me whether your H by B ratio is less than or greater than 1? Hello? Greater than 1. So you need to go with this chart. Okay. So this done, we have to use this chart to calculate the CF. Now, if you look inside of this chart, the x direction value varying with the A by B ratio. Okay, your A by B ratio is how much? So 1.6. If you see here, this 0, this 0.5, this is 1. See here, this is 0, this is 0.5, this is 1, and this is 1.5. And if you go ahead of 1.5, see this. Can I take this 1.6? If you project this line above, okay, this is done. Now this curve and these lines is actually the ratio of h by b value. These all are the values, are the chart for the h by b value. So can you tell me h by b value is how much? 4.6. So this is the first curve is for one h by b value. If it is 1, at that time you have to use this line, and if your h by b value is 3 meter, at that time you have to use the second curve, and if your h by b value is 5, at that time you have to use this curve. Okay, so what is the case? Which one we have to use here? 4.7. That is a approximate. We can consider it as 5. Hello. Yeah. So let it be 5. So just project from this point to fifth one. See, this is for 5. Okay. This is the intersecting point, and that intersecting point you have to project it on the y line. Okay, y ordinate. So when you project it here, so you will get the CF value. So can you tell me, this is the 1 and this is the 1.5. So in between you will get 1.25. Am I right? Yeah. So you can take it as 1.5 or 1.3. Approximation is acceptable. Okay. There may be a difference for 0.05 plus minus you can take. Okay. So what you would like to take? Either 1.3 or 1.25. Hello. What would you like to take? 1.3. Good. So let it be 1.3. 1.2. Excuse me. हाँ कहाँ क्लास में? हाँ 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 आज ही आज। हाँ 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 हाँ। Okay. See. So the value will be 1.3. Okay, good. Now see the first story. Okay. So we have to put the labeling of the story, so that will be more easy to find the lateral load at a particular floor. Okay. So this is the first story. See here, the wind load will act above the ground. The wind load will not act at the ground level. Hello, am I right? Wind load will not acting at the ground level. Wind load will be acting at a height, at a certain height. and instead of considering the stilt level, we are going to consider first story. Got it? Hello? Hello? Yeah, so we no doubt there will be a certain load at this level also, but we are not considering this. We are going to calculate the wind load at the first story. Okay, we are neglecting this level. We are considering this as a ground level. Okay, so actually what we have to measure the height from this point to this ground to above, so that the first story height will comes. How much it will become? 4 plus how much is 1.05. That height we are taking in consideration for the calculation of the lateral load at this level. Okay, that this height we are considering to first level. Okay, so how much it will become? Can you tell me? 4 plus 4 plus 1.05. How much it will become? 5.05. So just put this height there. Okay. So let it be height 5.05. It's done. Now the second story 3 okay, 3.6, 3.6, 3.6, 3.6, and sixth story will be what? At 3 meter. Is it correct? Hello? Yeah. Now move down 3.6, 3.6, 3.6. Then 21st story at a height of 3 meter. So this is done. Likewise, total height. See, this is the cumulative height. So 5.05. This will be 5.05. 5.05 plus 3.6. How much it will become? 8.65. Likewise, the total height will become what? Above the ground, 93. Is it correct? Is it correct? Yeah, good. Now we have to find the K2 factor. This is the most important thing, and that K2 factor will vary with height of your structure. Okay, so see, the table is actually given here to calculate the K2 factor. So which train category for our structure? Third category. So if your height of structure, the considered height of floor level is within the 10 meter, for all that floors, the K2 factor will be what? 0.91. For the 15 meter, it will be 0.97. For 20 meter, it will be 1.0. So what? How you can calculate if your height of the floor above the ground is suppose 16.5? Suppose height of the floor is 16.5 and you sorry, you have to calculate the K2 factor for this height. So is it given in the range? Given here 16.5. So what you have to do? What? Interpolation. We have to find the exact value with the interpolation. Okay, by taking the interpolation between between two range, you can calculate your required value. So that same thing you have to do here. So this table I actually have taken in the sheet, so that you don't need to come back again and again to the code. Okay, so here just come back to the sheet. See, for all the heights which is less than 10 meter, so you have to see the cumulative height. So 5.05, whether it is greater than 10 or less than 10? Less than 10. For the less than 10 value, how much K2 factor will be? Point, hello, 0.91. So this will be the 0.91, and 8 point, for what about 8.65? Again 0.91. Then what about 12.25? So it will be in between what? 10 and 15. And what the value for 10? 0.91. and what for 15.97. Okay, so I have prepared the interpolation table here, so you don't need to bother about the up and down values, and you don't need to bother about the respective values. Okay, you just have to put the required height, or for what height you actually want to calculate the value. So here I just want to calculate the value for 12.25. Just put it here, 12.25. So it will ranging from what, 10 to 15. Okay, see, just click on, just click enter. Okay, so 10 to 15, is it correct? For 10 it is how much? 0.91, and for 15 it is what? 0.97. As you can see here, for 15 it is what? Point. So according to this table, I have prepared this interpolation table. Got it? Okay, so see, for 12, so it will become what? 0.937. So 0.937. Okay, check, just check me if I did the mistake, just tell me. Okay, so 15.85. Okay, so 15.85, so 0.997. Okay, 15.85 will become 0.997. 0.9, sorry, thanks. Okay, then 19.45, 19.45, 1.006, 1.006, then 22.45, 22.45, 1.022, 1.022, then 26.05, 26.05, 1.040, 1.040, 29.65, 29.65, 1.058, 1.058, and 33.25, 25, 1.070, 1.7070, 36.85, 36.85, okay, 1.081, 40.45, 40.45, 1.091, 1.091, now 47.65, I think 44.05, 44.05, 1.102, 1.102, 47.65, 40, sorry, 47.65, 1.13, 113, 1.113, 51.25, 51.25, 1.122, 1.122, 54.85, 54.85, 1.128, 58.45, 58.45, 1.134, 1.134, 62.05, 62.05, 1.139, 65.65, 65.65, 1.145, 1.145, 69.25, 69.25, 1.151, 1.151, 72.85, 72.85, 1.157, 1.157. The next is what? 75.85. 75.85. 1.161. 1.161. 79.45. 79.45. 1.167. 1.167. 83.05. 83.05. 1.173. 1.173. 86.65. 86.65. 1.179. 1.179. 90.25. 90.25. 1.184. 1.184. And last 93.85. 93.85. 1.19. 1.19. You all got it? Hello? You all understood how to calculate the factor? Okay. Is there any mistake? Okay. Now the VZ value will be calculated by taking the K2 factor and all factors. Formula is there. VZ is equal to VB multiplied by K1, K2, K3, okay, and K4. All these factors are there, and K2 value is actually varying. Accordingly, your VZ value will get changed. Okay, so this value will be like this 40, 40, okay, continuously. Now, PZ value, the formula is there. PZ value will be calculated by default by this sheet. Okay, design wind pressure will be calculated by this sheet itself. Okay, this is all done. Now the dimension along which wind load to be calculated. See, here the small concept is there. See, this we are actually considering the wind load along the x direction. Am I right? But can you tell me which is actually facing area? Facing face? Either A or B? B. So wind will the exposed face is actually B. So you have to consider this length. That length you have to put here. Dimension along which wind load to be calculated. It should be like that. Face along which wind load to be calculated. Is it correct? Yeah. So it will be what? 20 or 32? Exactly. So that you have to put here first thing. Now the effective height. So this actually to calculate the effective area. See, actually, what is there? See, suppose this is our building. And let it be ground. Okay. So this is the floors. Okay. So what actually the thing is there? See, this area will be exposed to the wind loading. This entire face will be exposed to the wind. But actually we have to calculate the lateral force due to wind load to be concentrated at a particular level, and that level will be your floor level, floor height. Okay, so what actually the thing is there, the total wind will actually acting on this area, will acting on this area, but the load that actually coming on this facing areas, we have to concentrate at a particular level. We have to calculate in the form of point load, lateral point load over the floor level. Got it? So what that loading over the area we are going to taking as a concentrated load over the level, over the floor level. So what this is actually the, suppose this is the second floor, this is the third floor, this is the first floor, okay, or let it be second, let it be third, let it be fourth, let it be first. So while calculating the wind load to be concentrated this at this level, we are going to consider above half length and below half length. Okay, that area load we are going to consider to be concentrated at the floor level. So while calculating the area, see this length will be constant, this will be let it be 20, okay, and the upper floor height let it be 3.6 and lower floor height is let it be 3. So how much it will become? 3.6 will be half, or will be 1.8, and for 3 it will become 1.5. So this height will become how much? 3.3. So this is actually the height, 3.3, and this is the width 20. That will give you the effective area for a particular floor, and that area load we are going to consider to be concentrated at a floor level. You all understood? Hello? Good. So okay, see, so that thing is actually given here in the sheet. So effective height, so for the first floor there is only half of this height we have to take. 5.05 will become 2.53. Is it correct? Yeah. Now for the next floor, 2.53 plus 1.8, that will become 4.33. Is it correct? Then 3 point, then next 3.6 half of 3.6 plus half of 3.6, how much it will become? 3.6. So like that you will get the effective height. You all understood? Okay, hello, you all are with me? Yeah, so this is done. Okay, now next effective area will be multiplication of 20 multiplied by this effective height, you will get the effective area. So that will change over at each floor, and then the lateral force. So how much force at the first story? 44.21 kilonewton at the first story, lateral force in kilonewton. How much it is? 4.21. Likewise, at the next floor, how much it will be? 75. So it will continuously increasing from bottom to top. But here it will reduced. Why? Because the floor height is actually reduced. Okay. Initial floor height is what? 5.505, then 3.6. So it is actually get reduced. That's why this value is reduced here. Okay, so it's okay, no issue. Now then 72, 77, 72, 75, 85, 80 on, then from this point it goes to increase. Okay, now finally how much you will get at the top of the floor? 107.78 kilonewton. So can you tell me in kgs how much it will become? It is 107.78 kilonewton lateral force is there. If you want to calculate in kgs, just multiply with the 100. So how much it will become? 78. So this much load is actually coming on the top of the floor. If you want to calculate in ton, it will become 10 ton. Is it 10.778 ton? Wind load is actually acting on the top of the floor. Can you imagine how much it is? 10-ton lateral load is actually coming on the top of your structure. So it is less or is a big value. Yeah. So this much load is actually acting due to wind loading. Got it? So yeah. So this is actually the calculation we have done here. Now just go here. We have to input data. So just nothing is there. We actually have taken the inverse of the value. So this is the 26th floor, or we can say terrace floor, 25th floor. So inverse of this value is actually here. So top of the floor we got the value as 107, 106, 105. So these all results you have to put in ETABS software. Okay, when you come back to the ETAB, so see, we are not going to calculate the value by the ETABS software and uh, by the ETABS result. We are going to put the uh, manually calculated the value in the software. So here you have to go with the option user define or user loads. Is it visible? Hello, is it visible? Yeah, so just click here user load and say the modify load. So previously defined load will be modified. See, see, with ISO 875, if you go to modify this load, the new dialog box will be open like this. But if you go with the user defined option, user load option, say modify, so this load will be modified with the user load. Now then go to modify lateral load. See, is it visible? This will ask you the lateral force at different floors. See, 26, 25, 24, like that. Okay. Hello. Yeah. So here you can see at the basement, is there any lateral load due to wind? Hello. Yes. Okay. And still we are not considering to assign the lateral load. Got it? So only the lateral load will start from what? From the first story. Is it okay? And in x direction, positive in x direction. So just come back to the sheet and just copy all of these values from top to bottom. Say copy, Control C, and just come back to the tabs and go to the top. Just click on it on the first cell and just Control V, so that all values get copied here. Got it? Okay, so like this you can assign the lateral load due to wind loading in positive x direction. So this is done. Say okay. Now in negative direction, again go modify the load, user load, modify, then go to modify lateral load. Once you go find this dialog box, then come back and copy this value. Nothing is different, just we have taken the minus sign, negative value. Okay, so just copy it, and come back to sheet and just put the value here as just Control V, so all the values get copied here like that. So this is done. Okay. Hello, you are understood? Say okay. So like this you can calculate the lateral load due to wind loading. Is that okay? Hello. So this is all for today. Tomorrow we will calculate for the y direction. Nothing changes there, all things will be same. Minor changes we have to make there. and we can calculate the value in the y direction. Is that okay? Okay, so we'll see tomorrow what we have to do for the y direction, and the next steps we'll see in the next session. Got it?